By the end of this tutorial series, you are going to be able to make this intro I made 100% in Blender. You are going to be able to go from an absolute beginner to an advanced animator in Blender. You're going to learn all the bare basics from navigating around Blender to advanced Blender techniques. With that being said, let's get straight into the video and we're going to start animating. When you first open up your Blender file, you're going to see 4 main windows. Now, we're going to focus on the big one, the main window, which is the 3D viewport. And I'm going to show you how to navigate around your scene. So right now, this is our default scene with 3 objects. Now, our outliner shows how the objects that are in our scene. So right now, we have a camera, a cube, and a point light in our scene. It's only 3 objects, okay? Only 3 objects. Now, when you try to navigate around Blender, there's actually 2 ways to do this. First of all, on the top right, we have a gizmo over here. What you can do is that you can left click, and then you can drag your mouse to literally move around your scene using that gizmo. And then also over here, we have the zooming button to zoom in and out of the view. So if you left click and drag up and down, you can zoom in and out. So for example, if I leave it like this, I can zoom in and out, or in and out like that. And over here, we have this hand to move the view. So now you're panning around just like that. Now the next one is for camera. We're not going to do that yet. So that is the 3 ways to move around. Now that is just using your left click and drag. Now if you want to use a keyboard and using the shortcuts, that is more efficient, and I recommend you learning that as well. Now if you do shift and middle mouse button, do that together, and you move your mouse, you can pan around your scene just like that. And if you do middle mouse button and then you drag, you can rotate around your scene and then zoom in and out to scroll up or down your middle mouse button to zoom in and out just like that. So shift middle mouse button to pan around, right, middle mouse button to rotate, and middle mouse button scroll up and down to zoom in and out. That is like the only 3 ways that you can move around your scene. Now Blender is usually for modeling and literally animation. So that is a very, very good way to rotate around your object. Now the next thing I want to show you is that if you are selecting an object, it will turn orange, a light orangey color. So select this, it will turn an orange color. Left click, select this, it will turn a orangey color. Now the next thing you will notice, if you shift select multiple objects, so I select the camera and I shift select the cube. Now the primary object selected is our cube. So your primary object, the one that is highlighted as the light color, so light orange, is our object that we selected last, and that is our main one. And then the dark orange is one that is our secondary object in our scene that we have selected. Okay. And now once we have done that, now the next thing I want to show you is that if you select your object in the scene and you press the decimal point, the point button on your numpad, now you can change this in the preferences. I'll show you in a minute. If you select your decimal point, the point button in your numpad, select that, it will go right to that object. Now if you do that same thing in the outliner, so select the cube in your outliner and press the delete button or the numpad decimal point on your numpad, so press that and it will quickly go to that cube. And that is very, very handy if you are gone out of your scene and you zoom in, zoom out so much that you lost everything and you can't find your way back home. So what we have to do is select an object, press that decimal point, and you will get to that object. And it's very, very super efficient. Now what you also can do is rename the objects in your outliner. So if I press this, you can press F2 or you can just right click to rename it. So rename over here, or you can just press double click, so it's like that, double left click, and I'm going to name it camera 1. Now I just do that because there's going to be multiple cameras in your scene and you have to make it very, very, very efficient. And you can also make a cube 2, point light, whatever. You can do more stuff like that. And then the next thing I want to show you is going to your editor preferences. Now, this is when you have to go to the editor preferences if you do not have like a monitor and a desktop, and then you don't have anything. You have a computer, you have a laptop, then you don't have the numpad button, and you don't have like a middle mouse button as well. That's why you need to go to the edit preferences and have another video on that, just to let you know. It's going to be in the link in the description. So you have to go to edit preferences. Now, if you go into the interface, you're going to see the resolution scale. So I'm going to move this down right here. And the resolution scale is going to be how big you want your screen to be. So you can go to 0.5, you can go to 0.5, or you can go to 1. 1 is our default. I will usually make it to 1.25 so you guys can see my screen properly, because you probably have a small screen and you want to see it. So 1.25 is the best one. And then you can just press save preferences. But this one, I don't like it too big, so I'm going to keep it 1.2. Then you just press save preferences, but I have autosave on, so I can just do that. And then once you have done that, that's literally the basics you need to know. In the next video, I'm going to show you how to add objects in your scene. I'm going to meet you in my next video, so I'll see you there. In this video, you are going to learn how to add objects to your scene and then also transform the object. So grab it, move it around your scene, scale it, and even rotate it in your scene, so manipulating those objects. So let's get started. So we are in our Blender scene, and we only have our 3 default objects that are always in our scene. So we have our cube, a point light, and a camera. So what we're going to do, to select all objects in the scene, we're going to press A. So A to select every single object in your outliner, every single object in your scene. And then to delete an object, just press the delete button. You can press X then to delete your objects. So once we have done that, we are now going to add objects. Now to add objects, we have to have a specific shortcut. What we can do is go over here on the top left where you can see add, press add, and you'll get this option over here. Now the shortcut is, I would recommend you learning, is Shift A. So Shift and then A stands for add, Shift A, you'll get this add menu. Now this add menu will basically pop up a menu where all the objects are there, and they will show you which objects you want to add. So we have like the lights, camera, speaker, force field, armature. We're going to look at lots of them in this tutorial series. So we're going to look at this mesh, the mesh primitives, so like our basic shapes that you learn in maths. So we have mesh, and we're going to add in a monkey. So we have a monkey in our scene. Now just to show you, the object will only spawn where the 3D cursor is. Now the 3D cursor is this red thing over here. This 3D cursor is this red thing over here. So let me delete my object, and this is our 3D cursor. So move our 3D cursor, it's going to be shift and then right click. So shift right click like that, so you can move your 3D cursor. Now you can do Shift S to get this pie menu, so you can move your cursor to selected, cursor to world origin, cursor to active, cursor to grid, etc. So we're going to do the cursor to world origin, so we're going to go back into normal position. So we're going to do Shift A, and we're going to add in a monkey. Now you'll be wondering why I have so many objects, because I have add-ons enabled. So I'm going to leave the link in the description. I have the extra mesh objects, and I also have the camera rig objects as well. That's why I have this single vert or rock generator as well. If you don't have the add-on on, you only have the plane to the monkey. Okay? So now once we have the monkey, what I'm going to do, I'm going to press the delete button or the decimal point in our numpad, and we're going to focus on to our monkey. He looks very, very cool. Now what we're now going to do is move him around, because we don't want him in the center, we want him to move around. So what we're going to do is that, first of all, to move something, we can press G to grab, so we can move our monkey anywhere in our scene. And then to move it in a specific axis, so lock it into an axis, we can press G and then X to lock it in the X axis. And remember, the X color is red, and then we can only move it on the X axis. And then do the same thing for the Y axis, so GY to move it on the Y axis, and then GZ to move it on the Z axis. Now it's the same thing for the scale. To do scale, you probably guessed it's going to be S. So to scale an object, press S, and then you can scale it up or you can scale it down. You can also scale it in a specific axis, so you can do S. X to scale it down on the X axis, SY to scale it on the Y axis, or SZ to scale it on the Z axis. And then remember guys, Control Z to undo something, so Control Z, so we're going to undo every single thing. And lastly, to rotate your object, press R, and that will rotate an object, something like this, and press double R to tumble rotate. So double R, tumble rotate, you see this 4 arrow crosshair pop up, and you can tumble rotate. So let's quickly undo that, scale it up a bit. So now to rotate it on a specific axis, same thing, RX, rotate on X axis, RY, on the Y axis, RZ on the Z axis, so RZ, Z axis. So once we have now done that, what we are now going to do is that we can add other objects to our scene. So we can do Shift right click, Shift A, and then you're going to add in a torus, and with this a donut shape. I love it. Scale it on the Z axis, and looking good. You can create awesome shapes. Now in my next video, I'm going to show you how to go into the edit mode so we can mess around with the geometry and the vertices, so we can make complex shapes and model it so that it can get to our end result that we're going to create in this tutorial series, the mushroom. So I'm going to see you in the next video. By the end of this video, you are going to be able to use the edit mode in Blender. So right now, if you can see on the top left corner of your user interface, we are currently in object mode. Now, in object mode, you basically see all your objects. Now, we want to go into edit mode to see our geometry. What is our primitive object made up of? So as you can see, this monkey is a mesh that we got from our last video when we did Shift A to get in our monkey. So we're going to go into the edit mode. So go into edit mode just like that, and we are in our edit mode. So as you can see, there's another shortcut way to go to edit mode. So let's go back into object mode. To go into edit mode, you can just press tab on your keyboard. That is our shortcut key. So as you can see, we can see vertices. So your mesh in Blender is made up of vertices, edges, and faces. Right now, we are in vertex select mode, so we can only select your vertices. So we can currently just selecting our vertices. Now that is what the edit mode is for, to edit your geometry in a non-destructive way, but sometimes it can be destructive if you don't do it correctly. So now to go, we are in vertex select mode, you just press 1 to go into vertex select mode. Now to go into edge select mode, you can just go over here, press this edge select button over here, or you can just press 2, which is our shortcut key. So then you can see we can only select our edges. And then 3 to go into face select mode, you can only select your faces. So once we have done that, now what we're going to do is that we are going to now use these tools on the left hand side of your edit mode. So let's go over here. We're going to pull this out, and as you can see, we can see the names of these tools. We are only going to use some of these, the ones that are very, very, very common, and then the ones that we're going to use to model our end results, that are mushroom animation that I showed you in the intro. So we're going to first look at over here, the extrude region. Now, if you don't know what it does, what you can do is that you can hover over it. So for example, extrude region, and it says extrude freely or along an axis, and then it also tells you the shortcut keys, which is Shift Spacebar or E. So first we're going to look at our extrude region, but I'm not going to test this monkey because this monkey is very, very detailed. We're going to actually test this on a cube. Now, when I add the cube, it's not going to be here because that is not where our 3D cursor is. So if I look over here, my 3D cursor is over there. And you probably learned from my last video that to move a 3D cursor to this world origin, we have to do Shift S and then cursor to world origin. So let's delete our default cube, and then we're going to move over here and add in our cube, so that's in our center of world origin. So let's move this up on our Z axis, so it's up here. So let's go into the edit mode, so tab and to go to edit mode. Currently we are in face select mode. So in face select mode, to extrude a specific face, you just have to press E when you're selecting a face. So press E, select, I'm gonna extrude it out. Normally it's gonna extrude out on the Z normal. So it's gonna E to extrude out. And then basically you can do it for any side, any face, E to extrude out, and you can create very, very cool shapes with this. So just keep on E to extrude it out, any length, and as you can see, you can create cool stuff with this. Looking cool. Just E to extrude. You can even extrude in, or you can extrude out, and do not make sure that these do not collide. So as you can see, we made it collide over here, so it may look a bit weird over here, as you can see. So that is what the extrude key does, extrude a specific face. What we can also do is actually extrude a edge or a vertex. So let's go into edge select mode, and then we are going to select this edge, and then what we can do is just do E to extrude this specific edge, and then we can quickly G to grab, so we can move it, and then you can place it right there. Now, one thing I want to show you is that if we go into vertex select mode, we can combine these two vertices. So we have this vertex, there's one vertex over here that we can't see is under here. So let's quickly go inside. You can see that we have one vertex over here and one vertex over here. We want to merge them together. So we just press M, merge at center, so they are merged together. This is something like this. Then we can just move this on the x-axis and move it back to its normal position. So that is what this looks like. What just happened is that I had selected 3 of these. As you can see, I selected this one. So let's quickly shift select. So we're not selecting this one over here. Let's quickly go under our mesh. Just over here. Deselect this one. And then we can merge at center. So now it's only going to merge these two. I selected this one as well. And then quickly select these two. This one over here. And the one inside over here. And then merge at center. So now these are merged together. So now they're basically one thing. So now we have looked at the extrusion tool in edit mode. Now we're going to look at the inset faces. Now what does the inset faces does? It insert new face into selected faces. So this only works in face select mode. So we have to select 3 to go into face select mode or over here. So let's select over here. What we can do is that we can do I to inset. And as you can see, it insets and creates this square rectangle shape. So now once we have done that, what does the E key? I'm going to press I. You can do it multiple times. So basically you do I multiple times and you create multiple times. We can also scale it up to a specific need. So that's what it does. So I'm going to go over here. I to inset, and then we can E to extrude it. I to inset, E to extrude, and keep on doing it. I to inset, and then you can just keep on doing it to create a special effect. And then you could probably notice it's creating like this type of thing. As you can see, create something this, and then we can use what we learned. So go into edit mode and in vertex select mode and merge them at center. So we create this pointy thing at the end. That just looks very cool, and we created just that by extruding and insetting our faces. Let's go back into edit mode, and we're going to look at the bevel key. Now you are going to be probably noticing that our edges right now are a bit too rough. Our edges right now are a bit too rough. So if we go over here into bevel, we can bevel this, but we're going to bevel it using the shortcut key in edge select mode. So over here, select the edge. It is a bit we can just pull the string and it would bevel it for you, but we're going to use our, let's say we're going to use our shortcut key. So select this, we're going to do Control B, and it's going to bevel this. Maybe this is not going to be a good example. As we can see this triangle over here. So let's see, for example, over here, if we do Control B, we're going to bevel this. So we're going to smooth out the specific edge, and then we can also add some extra vertices to smooth it even out more. So as you can see, we create this very, very smooth curve at the edge. And then we can also do shade it auto smooth to smooth it out even more. That's what the bevel key does. And then lastly, we're going to loop at the loop cut. So what does the loop cut do? what it does is that it creates loops or extra geometry, extra edges in your geometry. So if we do Control R, which is our shortcut key, it will add in a loop. So left click to place it, right click to confirm, and then as you can see, you create an extra loop. So if we're now going to face select mode, we can do E to extrude, I to insert, and then we can do this over here, Control B to bevel, and look at that. Now that looks a bit weird, but you get what I mean. This is all the basic editing tools you need to know. And in my next video, we're gonna go into the edit mode again. We're gonna model something super cool. As you can see, we went from this cube over here and we transformed it into this miraculous thing. So in my next video, I am going to show you how to model in the edit mode from a basic primitive shape into our mushroom that I showed you in the intro. So I'm going to see you in my next video. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I'm going to see you guys in my next video. By the end of this video, you will be able to fully model a object in Blender using the edit mode. So right now I am in my scene. So I'm going to delete everything. So X to delete. And then I'm going to move my 3D cursor from here to the center of origin. So Shift as cursor to world origin. First things first, before we start modeling in edit mode, what I'm going to show you right now is that we are in perspective view right now. This is from perspective right now. So to look at the orthographic views, you can press numpad 1 to go into your front orthographic view. Then numpad 3 to go into your right orthographic view. You can see what type of view you are in looking on the top left of your screen, as you can see. And then numpad 7 to go into top orthographic view. We're going to be using these orthographic views when we are modeling. So what is modeling? So basically you start off from a basic primitive shape and then you build on it using your edit mode and some modifiers. We're going to look at modifiers in our next video, and if you don't know what the edit mode is, check out my last video where I show you the basics. So we're going to add Shift A to add a new object. We're going to start off from a circle. So look at this, we have a circle. Right now, if you look at the bottom left over here, this is the presets of the adding circles. So we're going to click this, and you can change the radius of the circle. We're going to leave that to 1. As you can see, I just clicked out on purpose because then it will go. As you can see, it just went. So we're going to add in a circle, and then we're going to change our radius back to 1. I'm going to leave it like that, but I'm going to change my vertices to 16 because I want to have less geometry. Because we're going to be extruding out, and then we're going to add modifiers to this to make it even better. So first things first, let's go into edit mode. As you can see, we have 16 vertices. We're going to be extruding, scaling, and even grabbing it. So we're going to be modeling a mushroom as is shown in our intro video for our tutorial series. So we're going to start off from our front orthographic view. We're going to do E to extrude out like this, and it's going to lock it in the Z axis. And then we're going to move it like this, and then we're going to press S to scale it. S to scale it out. And then we're going to do E to extrude again. And then we're just going to leave it as to scale it a little bit, just like that. And then we're going to do E to extrude. And then we're going to scale it down this time. Then we're going to rotate it. So press R to rotate it like this. We're going to move it, grab it, and move it something like this. As you can see, we created this type of shape. As you can see, our bottom face is empty. I'm going to show you how to fill that up in a minute. And then we're going to press E to extrude again. It's just extruding and scaling and rotating at this point and grabbing it around. So I'm going to keep it something like that. So now we've created the bottom part of our mushroom. Now we're going to create the top part when it's red, I believe. So then we're going to press E. And then going to do right click. After you press E, just do right click to lock it in place. Now what you're going to see is that we have two vertices on top of each other. So if I click this over here, we have two vertices on top of each other. So we'll quickly press Alt, select this loop, and then we're going to press S to scale it out. So as you can see, we have something like this. Let's scale it up a bit more so it looks a bit cool. So let's go back into front view. Then I'm going to press E to extrude it. And then on the Z normal, something like this, and S to scale it out. Now, as you can see, it might be a bit flat over here, but we're gonna bevel it so it's not gonna be that flat. So then we're gonna do E to extrude again, S to scale, E to extrude again. Then we're gonna scale it down this time, E to extrude it again, S to scale it, and then keep on doing that. And at the end, when we are here, at the end over here, we're gonna merge these all together, or we can press F to fill it, but we're gonna merge them. So M to merge them at the center. So we have something like this. So this is actually looking like a mushroom. So we're gonna go to front orthographic view. Now, as you can see, we can see that this is a bit too sharp over here. This edge loop over here. So select the edge loop with press Alt select to select this edge loop, and then I'm gonna do Control B to bevel it, so smooth it out. So as you can see, we smoothed it out a little bit. I can notice that this is a bit flat on the top, and I wanted to make it a bit bigger. So go into edit mode, select this loop, and then we're gonna go into proportional editing. So proportional editing mode is over here. You can press O, a shortcut, or press this. What you can do, so in proportional editing, it will also affect the vertices around your selected vertex. For example, we selected that specific vertex. With proportional editing on, we're gonna press G to grab, and then you're gonna see a circle of influence. It's gonna affect all of the vertices inside that circle of influence. You can also increase the circle of influence or decrease it by scrolling your mouse wheel up or down. So then we're gonna scroll it up a bit, so then we can quickly make it a bit bigger. Quickly move it over here, something like this. So as you can see, that looks super cool. Okay, so now once you have done that, you notice that we have this face at the bottom that is not closed. So we're gonna go to edit mode, Alt select this loop, and F to fill. It might be a bit flat at the bottom. If you don't like the flatness, we can just because you Control Z to undo this, and then we can just do E to extrude, and then grab it. And I forgot to turn off proportional editing, so turn off proportional editing, E to extrude, S to scale, and then you can even merge them at the center. Okay, but what I'm gonna do is just F to fill it. So now you have created a basic shape of your mushroom. It looks super cool. We're now gonna create the eyes. So we're gonna move our 3D cursor, shift right to move our 3D cursor, shift A. We're gonna add in a UV sphere, S to scale it. Let's go into front orthographic view, SZ, right orthographic view, rotate it so it's actually flat on the surface, S to scale it down, and something like this. So cool. Then we're gonna do Shift D to duplicate this, move it across, and it might look something like this. So we'll quickly down, Shift D this across. So now we create the two eyes and then our basic shape of our model. The next thing you're supposed to not forget to do is Control S to save it. So then you can see this pop up over here, saved your file. And then this is going to be the end of the video. So we modeled we started from this primitive shape, this circle over here, and we transformed it to this. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and you model it. You can model anything with anything. You just need to apply my method. So start from a basic shape, extrude it, scale it, intend to do whatever you want, and create any models you want. You can even model characters, and I have a video on that as well. So in my next video, we're going to look at modifiers to make your models even better to the next level. So I'm going to see you guys in my next video, and I'll see you there, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. In this video, we are going to look at modifiers in Blender. So before we get started, if you're new to my channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So first things first, you need to know what a modifier is. So a modifier is when you edit a object in Blender or a primitive shape in Blender without ruining its geometry in a non-destructive way. So editing it in a non-destructive way. So I'm gonna show you some modifiers on a cube. So I'm gonna move my 3D cursor over somewhere here. So I'm going to show you some modifiers on this cube right here. So I'm going to grab it on the Z-axis and move it up. So the first modifier I'm going to show you is the array modifier. So to add a modifier, you have to head on to your properties panel over here on the bottom right. And then you have to click this wrench icon. It's going to be adding some modifier. This is where you add modifiers to your object. So now I'm going to add modifier, and you can go into generate and then array modifier. Now what does the array modifier do? It basically creates duplicates of that specific object without adding actual geometry to it. So let's just increase the relative offset for the factor x, increase it to like 2, so we can actually see the space between the cubes. And then the count is 2 currently. We can change it to, let's say, 10. As you can see, it added 10 cubes on the x-axis without actually adding any geometry. They're just instances. So if we go into the edit mode, to tab into edit mode, if we just edit our original cube, let's just edit it, it will edit all the other cubes. We can only have to edit one cube. Look at that. That looks super, super, super cool. Okay. Now, if you apply the modifier, that is when I think you can get control. There's going to be one object. Now you can control each and one of them alone. Okay, when you apply the modifier. Okay. So let's delete that and let's add in a cube again. And now I'm going to show you a bevel modifier. Now the bevel modifier is the same thing as going to edit mode and just doing control B, selecting the edge loop, and then doing control B to bevel a specific edge loop like that. But the bevel modifier instead will bevel every single edge in your mesh. So let's go into add modifier, and it's going to be the bevel modifier, and it's going to be beveled each edge. We can increase the amount like that, and we can also increase the segments, and look at that, it smoothed the edges. And this is a very good way to not add any geometry, because if you go to edit mode, it's just still that one little edge, just like that. And if you want to go and see how many vertices there are, you can just apply the modifier, and you will see that if you apply the modifier, you're going to see the amount of edges you got to smooth that specific edge. So I would always recommend do not apply the modifier unless you have to edit something or you have to do it. Okay, I would never apply a modifier unless you really have to do something with it. So now we're going to look at a monkey. Now when you're in the monkey, we're going to now look at the subdivision surface modifier with the monkey. Now what does the subdivision surface modifier do? It adds extra geometry to something. So let's just add a cube over here, and we're going to add a subdivision surface modifier to this. Subdivision surface, it's going to add extra geometry to this. So let's increase this level viewport and the render as well to 3. As you can see, it smoothed out the faces and the edges, so then we can create a little bowl, as you can see. But if you go into edit mode, it's still going to be like that. Now if we look at the monkey right now, if we go and add a subdivision surface modifier to it, right now it's very low poly. But if we actually add a subdivision surface modifier to this, it will actually smooth it out, because it has lots more faces. So add a subdivision surface modifier. As you can see, the level viewport is only 1, and it looks super smoothed out. Let's just change it to 3, and look at that. This is before and after. Before, after. Look at that. And then we can shade it smooth. And then lastly, I just want to show you the mirror modifier quickly. So let's just add in a UV sphere. And then I'm going to show you something, a empty. Now, an empty is basically a plain axis that you use. So, an empty is like an axis that you use that cannot be rendered in your scene. That is not rendered in your scene, it's invisible, but you can only see in the viewport. And we're going to make that our mirror line. So, let's add in the mirror modifier. You can also search it, mirror modifier. And then we're going to select our mirror object, click the picker, and our mirror object is going to be an empty. And then it's going to mirror it on the x-axis according to our mirror line. I hope you know in your maths that there's a mirror line where you mirror a specific object in your x or y axis. So let's change it to the y. Let's quickly move it across. And as you can see, it looks super good. And that is the mirror modifier to mirror stuff. So now we have learnt your basic modifiers. Now we're going to add a modifier to our mushroom, so to even make it even better. So we're going to add, as you probably guessed, we're going to add a subdivision surface modifier to this to smooth it out. So add modifier, generate, and subdivision surface modifier. Let us change the level viewport to 3 and the render to 3 as well. Now the max is 6, I believe. And make sure you do not turn to the max, otherwise if you do not have a powerful computer, it might crash. So then what we're going to do, as you can see, it might be a bit more rounded here. I do not want to be that round, so we're going to add a edge loop to like add a sharp edge to it. So we're going to do Control R to add a loop cut right here, and then quickly make it a bit more sharp. And as you can see, that looks super good. And then lastly, we do not want to see these little lines. We're going to shade it smooth to smooth it out. And let's smooth out the eyes as well. And the next thing you need to do is save it. Just do Control S to save. And then look at that. That looks super good. So this was before it being, let's just shade it flat. Before we added the subdivision surface modifier, and after we added our subdivision surface modifier. And that looks super good. So now in our next video, I'm going to show you how to add materials so we can add some colors to this, so that's not this boring gray color. So I'll see you guys in my next video, and I'll see you there. In this video, we are going to add materials to our models and our objects in our scene. Right now, there's no material, it's so boring, and there's no literally life in our models, and we want to bring them to life. So right now, we are in our solid preview mode. So if you look at the top right, we are in our solid mode right now. To see our materials, we actually have to head to our material preview mode. So you can select this one over here. Now you can also go to your shading workspace, or in the top panel over here, you can go to your shading workspace and we'll make you go to that same thing. But we're gonna stay in layout mode because I don't want you to get confused with this user interface. Just stay in layout mode. Now, as you can see, there's only a default white material on our objects because there's no objects assigned to it yet. So before we even add objects to our mushroom over here, I'm going to show you how to add materials, the basics. So we're going to quickly add in a cube to our scene. Add, not a plane, a cube. Let's quickly move it and let's keep it there. Now to add a material, you have a property panel over here. That is the material properties. So there's a beach ball kind of icon over here. Select that and then you can add a new material. Now select that. First things first, let's rename a material. Let's just say we want to add a blue material. Let's just say blue. And then you will see that you're going to have lots and lots of options. And I'm going to go over the ones that you actually need to know because some of them are just irrelevant. You don't need to know them. So we have the main one, which is the base color. Right now, our base color is a white. That's why our cube is white. So let's change our base color to blue. As you can see, it literally changed our material in real time. And then we have the metallic option. So 0 is not metallic and 1 is metallic. So now you can see it's more metallic. And then we also have the roughness. The roughness means that 0 is going to be very shiny. And then 1 is going to be not shiny. Then you don't need to worry about IOR or alpha. But we also have emission. So if you want to emit a color, for example, blue, emitting blue. As you can see, that will emit blue and you can change the strength as well. Now that is the basics. Now you also have nodes with the materials in the shader editor. So I'll quickly show you that. So let me quickly get our normal color back. You have to quickly pull this up. You haven't seen this right now. This is the timeline. We're going to get to our timeline when we start animating. But you want to go on the top left. And we're going to select this and change it to the shader editor. Here you will see some nodes. You don't need to panic. They're not that complicated. It's basically the same thing. You see the principled BSTF. It is the same thing you're seeing over here. But it's just a node. But what you can do over here is that you can create complex materials and add textures. We are going to do that later in this tutorial series, and I'm going to show you that. But in today's video, we're going to stick with the basics, okay? So I'm going to pull this back down. So now we added a base materials. What if we wanted to add more materials to that one object? What we can do over here is add another material. Let's just say let's add another material, and let's say we want to add a green material. And then we're going to change this to green. And then you're going to notice nothing happens. Why isn't it happening? Because we have to assign it. Right now, only the blue color is assigned to our cube. We want to assign the green color. So we have to go into edit mode of the object or the cube. Select the faces or the vertices. Let's say you want this face to be green. So let's go to green material and we have to press assign. And when you do that, look at that. It's going to turn green. And that is literally assign multiple materials to a one specific object. So let's add another one for fun. Let's just say we wanted to add pink. What you're going to do, make it pink somewhere over here. Go into edit mode. Then let's select, let's say these three. And let's go into pink and assign. And look at that. We'll create a colorful little cube. Amazing. Now you know the basics of adding materials to your objects. Now let's head on to our mushroom. So our eyes is going to be a shiny black color. So let's hit our eyes, and then we're going to add a material, new material, and then we're going to name it eyes. And then we're going to add a base color, which is going to be black. And then our roughness is going to be 0 because I want it to be shiny. And look at that. As you can see, if you look into eyes, it's going to be some trees. Now, as you can see, we don't really have any trees in our background or anything. This is just our default HDRI. It's just showing us if it was shiny in the real world, how it will reflect the environment or the surrounding. So that's just the defaults to show you how it will reflect. I don't like it that shiny, so I might just take the roughness to about a 0.138. So we've done that. I want the same material on the other eyes. Now instead of doing it again, adding a new material, we can actually link materials. So what you're gonna have to do is the object with the material you want to select last. So let's just do this. Select this object that you want the material to be on, and then shift select the other object that has the material, and then you do Control L and link materials. Make sure you do it in that specific order, because if you don't, then you'll see what would happen. For example, I did this one first, then shift selected that one, Control L, link materials, it's going to turn white. Or it won't turn anything because there's no material set on this one. For example, if this one was, let's say, pink, you did this, shift select that, Control L, link materials, it's going to turn pink. The last one that you select is going to be the parent materials. That's going to be the material, okay? So let's quickly Control Z and look at that. So let's quickly add the material, Control L, link materials. So now we've done our eyes. Now let's do our mushroom body. As you can see, it's one object and there's more than one material in a mushroom. Now the top is going to be red and the base is going to be like a peach color, stuff like that. So add a material, new, that's going to be our base color. Let's just say a yellowy, that type of color, maybe like that. Looking good. And then let's add another material. That's going to be a red color. Let's just name it red. And then let's change it to red. And then we have to assign the faces or the vertices. So let's quickly Shift Alt select this loop. So this loop over here. Shift select this. Like that. We can Shift Alt select this edge loop over here. Shift Alt select this one as well, and this one, and this one, and this one. And then you can assign the red color. And look at that. That looks super, super cool. And that looks amazing. Now that literally is so much better than a white, gloomy, boring mushroom. And it adds so much detail to it. Now, in the next video, we're now going to rig our mushroom so then we can pose it. So then we can add and animate it as well. So it can close its eyes, do whatever it wants to do. So like posing and animating. So in the next video, we're going to start rigging. So I'll see you guys in my next video. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I'll see you guys there. In this video, we are going to add bones to our object, our mesh, so that we can animate it and then we can actually pose it, so then it can bend, deform, and we can do lots of awesome stuff with it. So we have this. In the last video, we added some materials to this to look it even better. Now, first things first, we're going to select this, and then my 3D cursor is at the center of the world origin. So if it's your 3D cursor like over here, then do Shift S, cursor to world origin, cursor to selected. Any of them would work. Now we have our cursor to this. You know that wherever our cursor is, that is where our object will land when we add it to our scene. So we're going to go into our front orthographic view, so numpad 1, and we're going to do Shift A and add in armature single bone. Now you'll notice that I have a Rigify Meta Rig 1 option as well. Now that is when, if you go into edit preferences, if you enable the Rigify add-on, so you guys go for add-ons, and if you enable the Rigify add-on, that is when you will get your option. But we're not going to be using that in this video, so we're going to be using the single bone. This is because the Rigify Meta Rigs only has some humans, animals, and basic, and the basic is basic human or basic quadruped. But we are animating, we are adding bones to our mushroom, which is nowhere near a human, so that's why we're just going to do Shift A and add it in a single bone. Now when we add the bone, you're not going to actually see anything. That is because it's actually inside our mesh, so the bone is actually inside the mesh, and we cannot see through the mesh. So what we're going to do over here, you'll notice that we have 3 extra property panels over here: data, bone, and bone constraints. In the armature, this man over here running, we are going to go over here into viewport display and enable in front. So now we can see it through the mesh. The next thing we are going to do is that we're going to rename our armature to the mushroom bones. So let's say mushroom and then underscore bone. As you can see, it will rename it there. So now we have done that, we can now extrude and add extra bones to this. So let's go into the edit mode, to tab to go into edit mode. And then we're going to quickly grab the top tip. Now if you grab it like this, then it's going to move the whole bone. We do not want that. We're just going to select the top one over here, then grab it and move it over here so that we don't move this bottom root over there. So we're going to move it somewhere over here. Something like that. As you can see, like a bend, it's a curvature over here. So we're going to keep it something like this. And then we're going to add in another bone. E to extrude out another bone. Okay, E to extrude out another bone. Then quickly place it something looking like that. We're going to make it very, very basic. Only 2 bones should be enough. Okay, something like this. Now if you wanted to make it more bendy, we can actually just add in 3 bones instead. So if we wanted to make it a bit more bendy, something like this, then that should work as well. Okay, I'll keep it like this one. I like this one. And then 3 bones. There's more control with it. So now we've done that, we are now going to add a bone for the top, for this red part over here. So let's just do E to extrude it out, and then it's going to control the top part. So then we're going to move up to the bottom bone a little bit up, and then we can look from the front view and the side. We see everything is aligned and looking very, very good. The next thing we're going to do is to keep everything neat. We can actually rename our bones. So let's select this bone over here and go into the bone properties, and this first bone we're going to rename it the root, because this root bone controls, is a parent of all the other 4 bones, or 3 bones over here. So if you move this bone, it's going to move every single other bone, because that is the parent bone, because that's what we started with. Now this is going to be our, let's say, a spine, whatever you want to name. I don't know what to name this because I don't know the body parts of a mushroom. Let's say the spine, and then we're going to name this the head, and then we're going to name this one the red part. You can name whatever you want, it doesn't matter. You don't need to add like .L or .R, because there's no we don't have to symmetrize it, because it's not like it mirrored. Okay, so now we have done that. What we can now do is parent our armature to our mesh. Okay, so then if we go into pose mode right now, that's when we can move our bones. As you can see, it's not deforming our bone because we have to bind this armature to our mesh. But as you can see, this is our root bone. If you move this, it's going to move everything else, because that is the root bone. Now, right now, this is forward kinematics. So basically what that means, FK means forward kinematics. What it means is every single bone in front of that specific bone will move. For example, this bone over here is forward kinematic, because if we move this, every single bone in front of it is going to move as well with it. For example, this one over here, if you move this one, the other 2 bones in front of it will also move with it. And as you can see, It's just like that, forward kinematics. Now, we're not going to add inverse kinematics to it, but if you want to know how to add inverse kinematics, I have a tutorial in the description and you can look at it. So now what we're going to do is parent our armature to our mesh. So let's shift select every single thing in our mesh, especially the eyes, and then shift select the armature last. Remember that's last. And then we're going to do Control P. When you do that, if you do not get your weights option over here or the bone option, it's because you haven't selected your armature last. So let's do Control P, and we're gonna we are going to do it with automatic weights. Set parent with automatic weights. So we're gonna select that, and then once we have done that, it's basically parented. Now, as you can see, when we actually deform it, it's not gonna deform very good. So if we go into pose mode, let me quickly deselect everything. So let's go here, and then we're gonna go into pose mode. So Control Tab. Now, if we actually just quickly deform this, the root bone is always deforming properly. Then, as you can see, it's not deforming like I want to. It's because, as you can see, if we move this, it's not deforming like I wanted to. So to fix this, we're now actually going to weight paint it. In the next video, we're going to weight paint it, so then our bones have a specific area they're going to deform. Now I'm going to show you a full tutorial on that in our next video. So I'll see you guys there. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and have a nice evening. Welcome back, guys, to another video. And today, in part 8 of our tutorial series, we are going to be weight painting our mesh. So as you can see in our last video, we added bones to our object, so our mushroom over here. This is called the armature. And when we went into pose mode, when we tried to deform our mesh, it wasn't deforming properly. As you can see, so we're going to weight paint, and weight painting is when you assign different areas to your specific bones in order so they can actually deform properly. As you can see, we do not want this top bone to be deforming the bottom part, so that is what weight painting is for. So let's get straight into it, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you're new to my channel. So let's get started. So the first thing we are going to do is, since the eyes and this part of the body are separate meshes, we're going to combine them, so they're going to be one mesh. So when we grab them, they're going to be one mesh. So we're going to select this, shift select the other eyes, and shift select this body, and let's do Control J. So then when we go into edit mode, we can go into the edit mode on each individual mesh. So now once we have done this, now it's time for us to weight paint our object. So to actually weight paint, what we have to do is we have to shift select our armature first. Remember, that has to be first. And then we're going to shift select our mesh last. And then we're going to go into weight paint mode. So select weight paint mode. And now, as you can see, we're going to see something like this. Do not panic. It is supposed to change colors. Now, as you can see, this first bone is selected. Now, and when you're in weight paint mode, to select a different bone, you have to alt left click it. So if you want to select this bone, alt left click to select this bone, alt left click to select this bone, and alt left click to select that bone over there. So alt left clicking. Now the different colors shows the area, the weight paint they have. So weight paint of 1 means it's going to be red. It has full influence. So it's gonna actually, the bone is gonna influence that area 100%. And then we have a weight paint of 0. That means it's not going to influence that area. And anything between red and blue is going to be between 1 and 0. So as you can see, we can see this is green. And green is somewhere between 1 and 0. That means it has some influence. So as you can see, when we move this bone, so if we do R to rotate, this is the reason why our bone is actually moving the bottom part, because it has some influence over it. It doesn't matter if it's not 0. It might have influence of 0.1, as you can see, or like 0.3ish. That's the green color, 0.3. It has the influence of 0.3. That means it's still going to influence it a little bit. Now the top bone, we only want to influence the top hat red thing the mushroom has. Okay, so we want to influence only that. So that means the top part of our mushroom has to be red, fully influenced, and then the bottom part has to be blue, meaning it has no influence. So this bone will have no influence over this part of our mushroom. So let's get this. Let's start. So let's gonna go over here, wait like that, and then we're just going to quickly paint this with a weight paint of 0. That means when you deform it, when you move that bone, rotate it, it will have no influence. It controls Z to see the bottom part and just quickly make it 0. Okay? As you can see, it's going to make everything over here 0. So let's quickly just make it 0. Now, as you can see, I'm just doing the top part a bit rough. I'm gonna make the top part 1, because this bone is only going to be influencing this top part over here, not the bottom part. Now, our top part, we're going to change it to weight paint of 1. So when we paint it now, let's quickly paint it now. Now it's going to influence it 100%. So that top bone is going to be influencing it 100%. So let's quickly do it like this. You can spend more time on it, but I'm going to do it quick for this tutorial. I don't want to spend. I don't want you to be bored me doing this whole thing. So let's quickly paint it like this, and let's do it like this. Now you want some of it like not red, but you want some of the colors to be here. This creates a gradient. It's better for bending your bone. It's better for deformation. So you want to be a slight gradient, and I'll show you I'm quickly going to show you how to get the best gradient. So just move things out. So let's quickly do it like over here, and now we have done this, we're going to make it final touches, make this red. Now to make a good gradient, what we can do is just do shift and then do your mouse. Shift select and then move your brush. This will smooth it out and it creates this sort of gradient, as you can see. And this is for better deformation. Now, if we rotate it, it's going to rotate only the top and some of this gradient to a certain degree of influence. And look at that. Now our top bone is only influencing our top of the thing. Now the next thing I want you to do is that go over here into tool properties, and I want you to turn on auto normalize. Now this is when if a bone shares a certain area, it's going to auto normalize it so it doesn't like fight for that specific area, because weight painting will always add up to 1. Okay, so remember, turn on auto normalize if that your bones do not fight for a specific area. That is just a way of saying it. Okay, just turn it on. It's a good setting. So let's quickly go back into our weight paint mode. Now we're going to focus. We've done this one. We're going to focus on this one. So what we're just going to do, let's quickly see how it looks right now. That's how it rotates. Now we do not want the bottom part to rotate with it. Okay, so what I'm just going to do, weight paint of 0, and just quickly brush and put a weight of 0 at the bottom part, something looking like this. And then once we have done that, what we can do is just smooth these out. Okay, smooth it out, S shift and then left mouse button. And now let's see what happens. Now look at that, is doing perfectly deforming right now. Do not worry about the eyes. The eyes are kind of joined together, so it doesn't really matter how the eyes will rotate or deform. So now we've done that, let's look at this one over here. Now this one, as you can see, it has a lot of weight paint. Now if we rotate this, it's rotating the whole thing, and we do not want we don't want it to rotate at the bottom over here, because that is for the root. The root will rotate the bottom. So let's quickly select this one and then 0. Let's quickly do it like this. Give it a 0 over here at the bottom because we don't want to influence it. Something like this. And then the bottom part, hit Control 7 to go into bottom orthographic view. And look at that. Smooth it out to add some gradient like that. And then this top part, we're going to add it like a gradient as well. And now if you rotate it, it's going to be rotating like that. And then what we can do is actually add a 0.1-ish to gradient over here. If you don't want it to rotate it so much, you can add a gradient over here. So let's quickly weight paint this. I don't want it to deform harshly. So you can add a smooth bend if you want. So you can just alternate the colors to add a smooth bend. As now it's not bending harshly, and that is for better deformation, to add that sort of gradient. So going from green to light blue, like green to turquoise to a light bluish to a dark blue, to add that sort of gradient. Okay, and now that is basically done. We don't have to do anything to the root bone because it affects the whole thing, and that is literally our weight painting done. As you can see, if you select this and go into pose mode, and if you rotate it every single bone is rotating properly, and this looks awesome. And now once we have done this, once we've done weight painting, in our next video, we're going to start animating. So in our next video, I'm going to show you the basics of animation, adding keyframes, and what does keyframes do. So I'll see you guys in my next video. By the end of this video, you are going to learn the basics of animations. We're going to learn how to add keyframes and animate this bouncing ball. So you're going to learn how to add keyframes from the start, from the basics, and you're going to learn how to create this awesome little animation. So let's get straight into it. So the first thing you need to know is, what is a keyframe? So a keyframe is a marker in a specific time that stores a value of a transformation. So as you can see, the transformations in Blender is the location, rotation, and the scale. So we're going to be adding keyframes in specific frames to store a property value. So that is like the scientific definition from Google. So I will show you in the simplest way. So the first thing I am going to do is I'm going to get a cube. So let's get a cube, and I'm going to show you how to add keyframes to this little primitive shape. So there's lots of ways to add keyframes. Now the first way to add it is press N to get our little transform panel over here. Now to add keyframes, you need to have your timeline. So we're going to move this up, and we're going to change this to our timeline. And as you can see, if we press the space bar, then our timeline will start to play. And as you can see on our top left, you will see its FPS, frames per second, which should be around 24 to 26. So let's quickly move that back. Now to add a keyframe on a specific location, rotation, scale, on a specific transformation, what you just have to do is hover over it and press I. It's that easy. So I'm going to add a keyframe at the specific frame, which is going to be 1, and I'm going to add a keyframe on the location. So hover over it and press I. So then once you have done that, you'll notice that we're going to get this yellow little diamond, and which will just tell you that there's a keyframe on that specific frame. Now this tells you at frame 1, the cube is going to have a X value of 20.5, Y value 0.1, and then a Z value 1.2. Okay, so now let's move this frame up to 30, and then we're going to quickly move this cube, G to grab, and move it over here. And now you'll notice that our location transformation will change its color to orange from yellow, so yellow to orange. Now this tells us that this transformation have changed and altered from the keyframe values, and this just shows us that we need to add a keyframe in order for us to proceed. So we're going to add a keyframe over here at frame 30. I had to add a keyframe, and when you add a keyframe, it's going to turn yellow. And as you can see, when we play this, it's going to start moving, because at frame 30, it's a value over here. Over here, it's going to be over here at frame 30. It has to be there because it's the key frame. And then at frame 1, it's going to be right here. Now we can actually add a keyframe between that. We can add like a little rotation like that, and then we can actually just keyframe this like this. But as you can see, nothing would actually happen. Why? Because we didn't record the rotation. We didn't keyframe the rotation at the start. So in order for that to happen, we're going to make the 0 and make it press I over here. And as you can see, now it's going to start rotating, because it's going to go from 0 to that specific value. And as you can see, that's literally how we add keyframes. Now another way to add keyframes is super simple. It's just pressing the I key. So I to add a keyframe, and it will add a keyframe to the location, rotation, and the scale. And then we can move this to like frame 50, and let's scale this up and grab it over here. And I to add a keyframe, you'll notice it will start to move. Now the whole point of keyframe is that it's going to have a smooth transition between those keyframes. As you can see, the Blender is the best software because it literally shows you the smoothest transformation between the two points of values. Now another way is like the K value, the K key. So you can press K, and then you can insert the keyframe at a specific thing, location, rotation, scale, location, rotation, and all of the other ones. For example, location over here, then you can move it to like frame 52, grab it around here, K, and add a location, and then as you can see, it will move. So now you know the basics of adding keyframes in Blender. What we're now going to do is that we're going to start animating a bouncing ball. Okay, it's not going to be that hard. Same thing, but we're just going to make it more advanced and more complicated, so it actually looks good. We just don't want a cube flying around having no purpose. So Shift A, and let's add in a plane. Scale it up, and that should be the floor of our bouncing ball. And then Shift A, and we're gonna add in a UV sphere, and we're gonna move it up so it's above our plane. We're gonna shade smooth this, and then we're gonna add in a basic material. So in over here, material, add a new material, and we're gonna make it blue so it contrasts with the floor, so it actually looks, you can actually see it clearly. So now we have done that, we are now going to start animating, and I want this ball to start from over here, from the top. Okay, so now we're going to go to frame 1, and we're going to add a keyframe to all of the values, because we're going to actually scale it up on the Z axis and scale it up over here and down over like this, because we want to get this elastic bouncing effect as well. So we're going to add a keyframe on the location and the scale. So we're going to add I location on the keyframe on the location, and I to add a keyframe on the scale as well. Now let's move this up to frame 30, and now I'm going to examine how fast or slow we should do. Now there's no perfect frame to go to, you just need to examine it, and we can actually move the frame. Let's move this down to like over here, where it's going to be touching our little floor, and we're going to add a keyframe over here and a keyframe over here, and as you can see, it is moving down. And now you'll notice that when it's moving, it's gonna start off slow, then it's going to increase the speed in the middle, and then it's going to slowly ease off like that. Now you can change the interpolation to linear. Right now it's busier. You can change it in linear, but we're going to keep it as busier because it's going to get too advanced. We're going to actually do something advanced with graph editors, with keyframes later in the tutorial series, and now you can't wait for that as well. So first thing, now once you have done that, we added a keyframe over here. Now I want to add a squash effect like this. Now, but I was noticing that this was too slow, so we can just move this keyframe to like frame 20 to add that little fast effect. And then what we're going to do, we want to get that squash effect. And now you'll notice when we add the squash effect, you'll notice that we're going to have to, let's say over here, want it to be squashed over here, like down there. Let's move it down like this, like that. And I to add a keyframe over here, both of these values. Now you'll notice that it starts to bend, it starts to squish itself before it even touches the floor. Now the problem with this is that it's not realistic. Now a ball doesn't squish onto each other without even touching the floor. So we're going to have to add a keyframe which supports this to over here before it even touches, like around here, frame 16. We're going to change the Z value back to 1, and we're going to add a keyframe over here. Now that just tells Blender that it starts squishing the ball right at 16 over here. Okay, so it's going to go like this and squish, and that looks super good. Now once we have done that, we're now going to animate this going back up. So around frame 24, grab it on the Z and scale it up. So I'm going to change this to 1. And grab it on the Z, move it up like that, and I to add a key from the location and the scale. As you can see, we create this cool thing looking super good. And what you can actually do as a challenge from me, you can actually animate this ball going like this. For example, make the ball bounce like this, and that should be looking amazing. Okay, so now we have done this, let's make it go even up. So around 30 frame, let's make it go up. And what we can do is scale it up to add this elongated effect. And animation is all about effect, and it doesn't have to be realistic. Anyways, stylized. And look at that, and that looks amazing. And then at the end, we want it to have the same thing as the first keyframe, because we want to make it a loop. So we're going to do Shift D and copy this keyframe. And what's going to happen is that the first frame is going to be the same as the last frame, which will make it a looping effect. So then what we're going to do, change the end frame to, it was 36. So start is 1, end is 36. And then when we play this, as you can see, it will create this looping effect. Now, as you can see, with this elongated effect, it actually does the little pause here, and probably because, let us quickly see why is there a pause. So it goes like this and then it starts like that. Yes, I get it. So what I'm going to do is actually delete this one, make it end at 30, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually copy this keyframe, Shift T, and make it start elongated to get that actual little effect. And look at that, and I can actually tweak this even further if you want, and that looks perfect. And now you guys know the basics of adding animation to your primitive shapes, to basic shapes. Now in our next video, we're going to actually animate something more complex, like a armature, for example, over here. So then this boring lifeless mushroom can come to life, jumping and doing lots of awesome stuff. So I'll see you guys in my next video. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in my next video. But at the end of this video, you will be able to create this awesome little jumping animation with our mushroom. We're going to be animating the armature in pose mode, and you're going to learn lots of good stuff. So let's get started. So once you have opened up your scene, we are quickly going to reset our 3D cursor to where it is, to the center, cursor to the world origin. So we're actually going to be animating the bones, adding keyframes to this armature, so then this mushroom will actually do some movement, and we're going to create some sort of jumping animation with this. So I'm going to first of all Shift A and add in a plane. And let's quickly scale this up, and this is where he is going to be jumping. And then we're going to quickly go into edit mode, select this edge, and then we're just going to E to extrude it out on the Z axis, and that is going to be our backdrop and our background. And then we're just going to select this edge loop and Control B and add some edge loops like that. And then we can shade this smooth. Now we have our floor, we can now start to animate. Now, as you can see, it's actually going through it, but we are going to actually let some of it go through, because then it will give the illusion that it's actually sitting on the floor, because no one's actually going to see what's under, we're always going to see what's above, and that gives the illusion that he is sitting down, okay? That is an animator's secret. So, first things first, we're going to open up our timeline. And then we're just going to go over here to frame 1. We are going to go over here, and in pose mode, we are going to add in the keyframes. First things first, I'm going to press A to select all of the bones in pose mode. And then we're going to press I to add the keyframe and the location and the rotation. It doesn't matter about the scale. We do not care about the scale when we're doing bones, okay? It doesn't really matter. So that's going to be our starting pose. And then in our last video, it was 30 frames long. Our last bouncing ball animation was 30 frames long. We can quickly change this back to the default of 250. So then we're going to quickly move this up to frame, let's say 30. And then we're going to go into the right orthographic view. So press numpad 3. Select this bone, rotate it. And we're going to quickly rotate these other bones like this. So it's going to be looking like this when we're looking at the front. Maybe rotate it just a little bit like that. And then press A and then I. Remember, you have to select all the bones. For example, if we only selected this bone and added a keyframe and pressed I to add a keyframe, if you select this bone, the keyframe thing is going to be gone. As you can see, only this bone is moving on the top, as you can see. So let's press A and then I. So then all of the bones are going to be moving. Now, as you can see, we have created this little pose. So he's going down, ready to jump, to give him the momentum to jump. And then we're going to whisk through to like frame 45, let's say. And then he is going to jump. So in front view, we're going to G and Z. It's still in pose mode. I'll quickly move it up to like about this kind of height. Okay. And then let's quickly press I. Let's see what it looks like. So like this, and then he jumps. And then at this frame, we're going to override it now with this bones over here. So R to rotate. And let's kind of like rotate it this kind of way. Something like this. Okay. So that's A and then I. So now we have done that. As you can see, we have this sort of animation. So he's gonna quickly go down and then jump. You might be a bit slow. Let's quickly move this to frame 40 and let's see how it looks like now. Yes, that is perfect. And then let's make him go back down. So let's say at frame 50, he is going to go back down like this. And then he's going to be crouching or something like this. Go back to this this little pose, something like this, and then A, and then I. So let's see how that looks like. And that is how it looks like. As you can see, it will slightly go like this, and then it will go back like this. I want this mushroom to stay at this specific pose for like a few frames, so then he gets the illusion he's actually in the air for a few seconds, then he comes down. So what I can do is select this Shift D to duplicate this keyframe, and then we can move this a bit forward, and then let's see how it looks. Jump, and then he comes down. I think that might be a bit too long. Maybe over here, and let's just move that back to frame 50. So let's quickly check that. Pose down, and that is perfect. And like at frame 55, he is going to be at the first pose, which is going to be this one. So we're just going to press this Shift D and move it like that. And as you can see, he is now jumping. That might be a bit too fast. So like this, and that looks perfect. I'm going to make our last frame to 60. And as you can see now, if you played this, it's going to be an awesome looping animation as the first and last frame are the same. So in our next video, we are now going to actually learn about the camera in Blender. And we can actually go look how to animate the camera, how to look through the camera view, and all lots of awesome stuff. So I'll see you guys in my next video. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in my next video. In this video, we are going to be looking at cameras in Blender. You're going to learn how to go into camera view and then also animate our camera, something looking like this. And briefly, we're going to look at some of the camera settings in Blender. So without further delay, let's get straight into it. So once you've opened up your scene, you're going to see your animated mushroom that we did in our last video, where we actually animated the armature, adding keyframes to it. And if you already haven't done this, I'll leave the link in the description for that specific video where I actually added the armature and I actually rigged it as well, and then we added some keyframes. So I'll leave the link in the description if you already haven't done that. But in this video, we're going to be looking at cameras in Blender. Now to add a camera is super easy. We're going to quickly move our 3D cursor and make sure you are in object mode. Move our 3D cursor, let's say over here. And then we're going to do Shift A, and then we're going to look at the camera. Now camera, you will notice I have 4 cameras. I have the camera, the dolly camera rig, the crane camera rig, and the 2D camera rig. By default, you should only have this one camera, the default camera. But if you want to have these 3 rigs, that's just in free add-on that Blender has. You can just go into Edit, Preferences, and then in Add-ons, just search Camera, Add Camera Rigs, and it should come up if you want to enable it. But we're just going to be using the default camera in this video. So Shift A and add in the camera. Let's focus onto that camera. And as you can see, this is what the camera looks like in Blender. It's quite boring. It's just a rectangle with some triangles connected to it. And that is where the origin point over here is. That is our origin point, okay? So, to look into the camera view, to go into camera view, there's lots of different ways. But the fastest way is just to press numpad 0 to go into that camera view. When you select numpad 0, you will see that we are going to see this type of rectangle. And you can zoom in and zoom out like this. That is our frame for our camera. So if we get out of here, just press your middle mouse button to get out of here. That's going to be our little frame. So numpad 0 to get into your camera view. Now there are a number of ways to actually move around the camera. Now you can actually use this location transform over here. X, Y, Z, remove in the Y, Z, and etc. That is a way to do it. But I do not do it that way because now look, when we rotate the camera and we got out, you'll notice that our viewport actually has rotated around. Is kind of messed up now, and you do not want to do that. So we're actually gonna quickly fix this by putting that 0, and now it's going to be fixed. So make sure whatever your camera angle is, that's going to be your viewport angle as well. Just make sure. So then now, there's another way to move around your camera. That's not the best way to move around. So numpad 0. And if you press the shift key and then tilde key, now you're going to be like, what's the tilde key? That is just the key that's on top of the tab button or the next to the number 1 on your keyboard. Not the numpad 1, the number 1 on your keyboard. And just press that. And you're going to see that you're going to get a 4 crosshair on your camera. And then you can actually move your camera with the mouse. So rotate your camera with the mouse, just dragging it like this. And then WASD to move around your camera like that when you're playing a video game, okay? So now let's quickly move our camera to this specific position. So right in front of our mushroom, something looking like this. So now we're going to add keyframes to our camera. So we're going to go into frame 1, and this is going to be our main focus. So we're going to quickly rotate it like this. So shift tilde key and get a crosshair to help you. So we're going to press I to add a keyframe to the location and the rotation only. We do not want it to be scaling up because the scale doesn't work on a camera anyways. So I and then I on the location and rotation, you can see it will add in a keyframe. And then when it's going to bend down the mushroom, we're actually going to zoom in. And I'm going to press shift tilde key and with W, to zoom in something looking like that. So it fills up the whole screen. And then we're going to press I and I to add the keyframe and the location and the rotation. So as you can see, this is what it looks like. And then when it jumps, I want it to go up and then quickly move back a bit like this. That looks good. I and then I. And then finally at 60, let's move it back down and make it reposition like that. And as you can see, we quickly animated our little mushroom like this. And this is how it kind of looks like. It looks okay. And that is just like the most basic animation for the camera. You can actually mess around with animation. You can make it anything you want. You can animate it going around the mushroom, going top view like this, bird eyes view, side view, so zoomed in. You can do whatever you want. It is your scene. But before I end this video, I just want to show you some of the settings of the camera. Now, when you add the camera, you'll notice that we get a new properties panel called the object data properties with the camera icon. Just select that and you're going to see some of the settings. Now you can change the focal length. So I'm actually going to go into our view. You can change the focal length. I will just zoom in or zoom out like this. That is the focal length. As you can see, that just what the focal length is. I'll just keep it at 50. And then the shift X to shift it on the X axis, the Y, etc. And then you can actually animate it as well. These circles over here just shows you if you want to add in a keyframe to that. So you can actually add keyframes to values, and we're actually going to do that later in this tutorial series. And then depth of field, this is when you try to focus on a specific object. So just select this click icon and just focus it on there, and you can actually focus on the object. Right now you can't see anything because we're not in rendered viewport shading mode, but we're not going to get into depth right now. And we're going to actually mess around with lots of these settings later in our tutorial series. So that is it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button if you enjoyed this. So I'll see you guys in my next video. By the end of this video, you will be able to switch from cameras in your scene. So as you can see, this is playing and this is going to switch to the second camera. You can literally see that this camera, it was active at the start, then this camera is active by looking at the black triangles on top of them. And if we go into camera view, we can see that our camera is switching. We're going to learn how to add markers and bind our cameras to our markers. So let's get straight into it. So the first thing we're going to do is that we're going to add in a camera that we're going to switch to in mid scene. So let's quickly move this camera up. Now you'll notice that this specific camera is filled up. So this triangle on top of it is filled up, and this triangle is not filled up. What this just means that if we press numpad 0, that is what the camera view is currently. So if you want to go into camera view for this guy over here, this camera over here, you have to press Control 0 to go to that scene. So Control and numpad 0. But first of all, you have to select that obviously, and Control numpad 0 will let you go over there, okay? So this is our scene that we made in our last video, but this is quite boring. I want to add in another camera. So what I'm going to do is that at frame 30, we're going to switch our camera to this one over here. So we're going to quickly go over here. First things first, we're going to add in a marker. So M to add in a marker, and this is going to be our marker. The next we're going to do is bind our camera to this specific marker. So I have to select this camera and then Control B to bind this camera to this marker. And now you'll notice nothing's going to change, but now we're going to do, for this to frame 1 to 30, this is going to be our camera that's going to be playing. From 1 to 30, it's going to be playing. Now, if you go scroll on, you'll see that it's still this first camera is because we need to add in another camera. So now at frame 31, we're going to add in another marker, and then we're going to select this camera over here, and then Control B, to then this is going to be our camera. So from 1 to 30, it's going to be this camera view, and then from frame 31 to 60, it's going to be this camera. And that is how we switch from cameras in our scene. So change to like different camera angles or camera shots, and it's very, very, very good. So let's animate our second camera very, very quickly. So it's going to be like this, and then we're going to get a side view of it. So maybe a side view, something looking like this. So let's add a keyframe, and it's going to jump up. So let's quickly move our camera up, something like this. That might look cool, bit cool. Let's quickly see how that looks. So jump, or we might just make it stay on the floor. That might be a bit better. So like this, and maybe like zoom in once we're getting closer. So zoom in something like this. So and then this is what it looks like. So that is our camera. So let's see how it looks. And then it's going to jump like this. So this is how you basically switch from cameras in Blender. So this was a very short video. And in our next one, we are going to learn how to now make our final scene. We're going to tweak some stuff. And I'll see you guys in our next video. By the end of this video, you're going to be able to make this awesome animation in Blender. This is a beginner friendly video, and you're going to learn advanced techniques in Blender. So without any further delay, let's get straight into the video. So first we're going to model our scene, get the backdrop, the floor, and then model the mushrooms as well. So first things first, on the bottom left over here, you can see what I'm clicking. So right now, middle mouse button, and then you can see the button that I'm clicking if you want to know. So first things first, let's delete everything in our scene, and then we're going to Shift A, add in a plane, and let's scale this one up. Then we're going to tab into edit mode, select these two vertices, or we can go into edge select mode, and then E and then Z to extrude it out on the Z axis. So we're going to get our backdrop. Then we're going to select this edge over here, and then Control B to bevel this, and it's going to be something looking like this. So now we got our floor, and this is where our animation is going to be here. So now we're going to create and model our mushroom. First things first, I'm quickly going to hide this, or I'm just going to rename this on the outliner first, floor. And then I'm going to hide this over here, and let's quickly model our 3 mushrooms, okay? So we're going to do Shift A, and in mesh, we're going to add in a circle. And then over here, in the bottom left over here, you're going to see some presets. We're going to change the vertex count to 16 so we can have less geometry, because we're going to add a subdivision surface modifier to it anyways. So then we're going to quickly get out and tab into our vertex select mode. And then we're going to quickly E and Z to extrude it on the Z axis. So first we'll go into front orthographic view by pressing numpad 1, E and Z, and then you can quickly scale it up, and then E to extrude it, and then scale it down, rotate it, and move it something looking like that. E to extrude, S to scale, rotate it, and this is going to be something looking like this. So we got our basic mesh, so this is going to be our big one, the big mushroom. And let's quickly just fill this bottom part. So select this loop, and then F to fill. So this is what it looks like. We can literally just bevel this over here. So to select this again, Control B to bevel it. So with a few vertices, like to one edge loop like this. So this looks perfect. Now we're gonna get and model the head quickly. So like the top part, which is red always. So then we're gonna go into edit mode, select this edge loop, then E, left click and Z, and S to scale it up. So let's quickly get the right size. So something looking like this. And then we're gonna quickly E, Z, and then move it up, S to scale it, and then let's quickly just do the same thing, repeat it, and then S to scale it down, and it should look something like this. And then lastly, just scale it down and just M to merge it at the center. So we got something looking like this. So now as you can see, it might be a bit flat on the top. So what we're gonna do is select this loop over here, and we're gonna go turn on proportional editing, select this one and go over here to connected only, and we're gonna grab it and move it up by quickly just moving it up like this. Or we can go into front view, something like this. So this is what our mushroom looks like. Now we're gonna actually add in a subdivision surface modifier to this to smooth things out, because this is very low poly right now. So let's go over here into this wrench icon over here, the modify properties, add modifier, and generate a subdivision surface modifier. Or you can do Control 2. Now as you can see, this is what it currently looks like. Not looking very good, is it? So we're gonna attain the levels we put to 2. And in edit mode, I'm actually gonna add in a loop cut right here. So then you can actually distinguish between the top part and the bottom part. And now it looks much more better. So this is looking super good. Let's quickly shade this smooth, right click, shade smooth. So this looks good. So now I'm going to quickly create the eyes for it. So in front orthographic view, quickly move this over here, shift right click. So shift right click over here, move our 3D cursor. Then we're going to do shift A, add a UV sphere. So scale it down, scale it up on the Z axis. And this is what it's going to be looking like. Rotate it, so numpad 3, and then rotate it and move it across like this. So you can make it whatever shape you want. You can even edit your mushroom to make it your style. So I'm just going to go with what looks good for me. And you can spend more time modeling it and making it perfect. But for this tutorial, I'm going to quickly keep it like this. So this looks good. And let's quickly just go in front view, Shift D, let's move it across on the X axis. So this looks perfect. Just need to move this out on the Y just a little bit. So as you can see, this looks perfect. Now once you have modeled this, we're now going to model our second one. So for the second mushroom, we're going to do the same process again. But you can just duplicate and just change some stuff in the geometry. But I like it. I'm going to model it again because I want to change some stuff in it. I want to tweak some stuff. So I'm going to move our 3D cursor over here, Shift A, and then quickly add in a circle. This time it's going to be 16. I'm going to scale it down because it's going to be a smaller mushroom. And let's quickly move it back on the Y axis like this. Into edit mode we go. And then we're going to move it down the Z like that. So it's going to be on the X. Z is going to be 1. So then we're going to E to extrude it out. And then S to scale. E to extrude out. S to scale it down. I'm going to rotate it. And I'm going to do it the other way around. So something looking like that. And then over here, I'm just going to quickly bevel this part. And then I'm going to quickly get this part. Also at this loop. E to extrude. S to scale. And then rotate. And then quickly do it like this. And then finally for the top part, E, left click, S to scale it up over here. E, Z, E, Z, E, S to scale it down like this. Remember, I did it on the Z axis, okay? So then quickly just F to fill it. So this is what it looks like. So then when I fill in the bottom part, you can just fill it, or I'm just going to do S to scale it, and then quickly move it down a bit, and then F to fill. This is what it currently looks like, and then I'm going to quickly just get this top part because it's a bit flat on the top. So edit, proportion editing enabled. Select this edge loop over here, G, and let's quickly move it up. So make sure it's enabled. So let's move it up, something looking like this. Move it down. So then move it up. So this is what it currently looks like. I want it to be a bit different to the other ones. That's why it looks kind of cool. So then add in your subdivision surface modifier. So right over here, and then quickly increase it. Then remember to add your edge loop over here. Control R to get your loop cut, so then you can distinguish between the head and the top. This looks amazing. Then let's quickly add in our eyes. Front view, shift right click to move 3D cursor, shift A, get in your UV sphere, S to scale it down, or yeah, forgot to disable proportion editing, S to scale it down, SZ to scale it up on the Z axis, then numpad 3 to get in your right orthographic view, rotate it, grab it, S to scale it, and then quickly adjust your eyes, scale it down. This looks perfect. Let's go do Shift D, move it across. Let's move it something looking like this. Now that looks perfect. And now we're gonna create our third mushroom quickly. Now for the last one, I wanted to make it a bit more fat, so a bit more like width, like more lengthy. So I'm gonna quickly go over here. So it's gonna be a bit more cuter. So Shift A. Add in your circle, and then quickly scale it down. It's going to be a bit small as well. Then edit mode, E, and then Z. And remember to just turn off proportion editing. And then E to extrude it out. S to scale it up. And then E, S. Something like this. That looks good. And then E, S. This is what it currently looks like. Bevel this part over here. So then we're just going to quickly get the top part. So this over here, E, S. And then we're just going to quickly get the top part. So E, left click, S to scale it up. Then E, Z, S, E, Z, S. And just quickly do this. It might look a bit big. I'm just going to quickly scale it after I've modeled everything down at the end. And then just merged it at center. And then lastly, add in your subdivision surface modifier. And then let's quickly move it to 2. Now it looks like a vase or vase. And then let's quickly add in your edge loop right here to distinguish between the top and the bottom. So I'm just going to quickly scale it a bit down with proportion editing on. Just a little bit like that. And let's quickly scale it down in general. So something looking like this. And remember to just fill it in your bottom part. So also select this loop. F to fill it. Looks perfect. And lastly, select this vertex over here. Front orthographic view. And just G. Let's move and make it a bit more bigger. Now we have modeled our mushroom. Let's quickly just get our eyes. I'm just going to quickly duplicate from there. Shift D. Duplicate it. Get it like right there. Shift D. Get it right there, and right like this, and then quickly move it on the Y axis back. So now we have modeled our mushroom. The last thing we need to do is that we need to create those little white dots on the top, because that we're going to be animating it, making it bright. So we'll quickly model that. So what I'm going to do is first of all just shade this smooth, because I kind of forgot to do that. And then I'm just going to do the same over here, shade it smooth. And for these eyes as well, shade it smooth. Now create the top part, so there's those buttons on the top. I don't know what they're actually called, to be honest. I'm just going to quickly get a circle again. I just rotate it like this. Probably you can't see it right now, just quickly move it up. And then I'm just going to quickly go into edit mode. F to fill it out. Then we're just going to do E and Z to extrude it out, something like this. And then we're going to add in our edge loop like right there. Control R to add your loop cut. And just S. We're just going to S to scale it out, looking like that. And then we're just going to do the same thing again. So just select this face, E to extrude, S to scale it. But remember, we have our proportion editing on. S to scale it, and then E to extrude, S to scale it down. And then I think this will be perfect. So what I'm going to do now is add in a quick subdivision surface to it. So let's smooth it out. Levels viewport is going to be 2. So now we've done this. What I'm going to quickly do now is just scale it down and quickly just randomly just position it on the actual mushroom. Let's quickly just position it something like this. So let's quickly shade it smooth. Remember to shade it smooth. So shade it smooth. Scale it down. Shift D. Rotate it like this, and remember you can tumble rotate as well. So now once I've duplicated it, I'm going to quickly fast forward this, so I'm going to quickly add this to the other two as well. So I'm going to quickly fast forward. So I have modeled the circles on top of the mushrooms. Now we're going to add in the materials. So we're going to go into our shader editor over here. So preview the viewport shading mode. So I'm going to quickly go over here. First things first, we're going to actually quickly make the materials of the eyes black, so shiny. So we're going to go over here, click this top left button over here, which is going to change it to the shader editor. Create a new material. You can rename it whatever you want to. So we're going to name it eyes, for example. And then we're going to quickly go over here. And then over here in our base color, we're going to change it to black. Then our roughness to 0 to make it shiny. And this is looking okay. And then to link duplicate it, so like duplicate and link the materials to each other, because we don't have to make it the same thing every single time. So I'm going to go over here, select this, select every single eye except for the one with the material, and then we're going to shift select the last one with the material last, Control L and link the materials, so each one of them will have the materials linked. That means we have to do it for each one of them because it saves us time. Now lastly, for these ones, they are going to be emitting light, so we're going to leave that one last because we're going to be actually animating these circles. So lastly, over here we're going to make it a peach color. So this base color over here, make it a bit yellow, something looking like this. That should be good. And then our top part, we're going to actually have to go over here and then add a new material. So I'm going to rename it to red top. That looking good. And quickly make it a red color over here. And then let's quickly keep it like this. So to actually assign the red color, because you can't see anything, we're just going to quickly go into edit mode, select each face we want to be red. So we're just going to select this part over here, Shift Alt select this part over here. So quickly let's do this, Shift Alt select this loop over here. So then just select everything quickly. So like this. And then if it's asking to select something, just Control select them. So we don't need to select them. So you select everything. Now I'm going to press click assign, and you'll notice that it's going to turn red. That looks perfect. As you can see, we just selected some of the peach parts over here. So we're just going to have to go into edit mode. And then it's going to add in a loop cut right here to actually just deselect it like there. I just select these faces over here and just turn it red. Assign it red. So select these and assign it red. Now it looks